Testing. Alright. I'm pretty sure I have to buy another pair of headphones. My computer's like a little bit eaten up. Alright, response training considerations, hazmat material incident response curriculum guidelines, response training considerations, 2016 response training guidelines, page 1. About response guidelines, hazardous material incident response curriculum guidelines or response guidelines are provided by the assistant public sector training manager that employers to understand the training requirements of public sector's response personnel of the hazardous material emergencies. Existing regulatory requirements are defined, and additional consensus standard recommendations are provided with the help managers improve the quality and effectiveness of the hazardous material incident response training. The response guidelines are organized in 15 sections. First section addresses the general response training issues and includes employer legal responsibility of training, challenging of the training of the competency, response competency definition, general methodology, and testing consideration, refresher training instructor qualification, section 2 through 4, display the 2 through 14, display the objective to draft the training achieved by the public sector response training for each of the competency or response role of the public sector employees may be required for the perform during hazardous material incident with the competencies or sections as are awareness level of the personnel of the first responder at operation core competency with the responder at operational level, the mission specific competency with the responder at operational level, the hazmat material technician with specialties, incident coordinator, National Fire Protection Association specialist employee, CBA and OSHA specialist employee, hazard material officer, hazard material safety officer, BLS, hazard material basic life support responder, ALS, hazard material advanced life support responder, advanced life supporter, mission specific competency, the hazmat and advanced life support responders, hospital first responders, appendixes, related to special topics. In each of the competency over the minimum level, the required training is defined with the regulatory specification OSHA standard 1910-120Q. In addition, with a more extensive recommendation level determined primarily with a consensus standard specification of the National Fire Protection Association, delineated with the National Fire Protection Association 472 and 473. Additional training objective have been added to the recommended level of training beyond specified with the National Fire Protection Agency, National Fire Protection Association 472 to draft the special topics such as the radiological first response, cleanup, consideration, skill support personnel for all recommended training object for each of the competency area of the source of the relationship training required with the OSHA 1910-120Q are given the relationship recommended objective of the regulatory requirements are provided with the assessing of the course of the compliance with the needs to train all personnel who respond with the hazard material related with the terrorist emergency must be properly trained to perform the job safely and efficiently with the employer with the responsibility ensuring health and safety of responding personnel as well as the protection of the public and communities served. Training managers face the significant challenge ensuring all the responding personnel are fully prepared with the competency to perform the sign test when while working with the existing limited resource of collecting priorities. The challenging is compounded by many other factors. The ability of the public sector for the personnel to respond to these factors include individual retention efficiency, differences, the various need of the refresher training, challenging complex nature, hazard material terrorist incident, but the threat of the evolving incident strategy with the operational techniques, unpredictable changing of the team with the expertise, resource for the combination during incident responses. These guidelines for training personnel with the respond with the hazard material related with the terrorist emergency are based on the multiple source of the minimum legal requirements defined in OSHA Title 29 CFR 1910-120Q. In the Environmental Protection Agency Title 40 CFR 311 EPA 311 current higher level of recommended level of training with the respondent defined in voluntary consent of the National Fire Protection Association 472. Certain competency respond with a hazard material weapon mass with the destruction incidents National Fire Protection Association 473. Certain competency over the EMS personnel with the respond with the hazard material weapons mass destruction incident. In addition, with a recommended level of training with the hazard hospital personnel handling victims with hazard material weapon mass destruction incident are based on OSHA's best practice for the hospital-based first receiver for the victim's mass casualty incident involving the release of the hazardous substance. Employers with legal responsibility, OSHA Title 29 CFR 1910-120Q and the EPA Title 40 CFR 311 and EPA 311 require the emergency response employee to be trained competent to perform their assigned tasks during the emergency and minimum of the training include with the elements of the emergency response plan, standard operation procedures established by the employer, procedure for the notification response for the hazard material emergency. The employer must certify with an annual with the employee with a successfully complete with the required training perform the assigned task with the range of the skill and knowledge of the refresher training can be accomplished with the range of the training with the exercise operation method that you to demonstrate the competency with certification training may be recorded maintained by the employer. Important concept to remember: chief director responsible to determine the appropriate level of training required based on the actions required of the members stated with the standard operation procedure. The chief of the director is responsible for implementing required training, certifying with the members of the organization have the competency required with the document of the training, and it's critical to OSHA the 10.9 1910-120Q, EPA Title 40 CFR 311, rules apply with all public sector agencies that are expected to respond to emergency involved with hazardous material, including carrier, volunteer fire departments, and emergency medical services, law enforcement personnel. OSHA 1910-120Q, name EPA 311, the legal requirements apply with the employer who the employees engaged for the emergency response hazardous material incident. The employer responsible for the regulation and form and primary area of the development and emergency response plan to develop the specific procedure handling hazardous material incident, the training requirements, health and safety requirements, medical monitoring with the personnel, some of the hazardous material response team, the documentation, chemical, protective clothing, personnel exposed. The OSHA 1910-120, the EPA 311 that provide with the minimum legal requirements of acting with the hazardous material weapon of mass destruction training. However, the more jurisdiction purpose for the most current, much higher recommendation level that is defined in the National Fire Protection Association 472 and 473, and keeping the principle for the fully preparing responders to respond with these standards, the more current the definition of competency are designed to address more recent current hazards and response challenges. Employer training requirements. Employers must ensure the employees are trained with a competent emergency response hazard material incident based on these expected assigned duties and functions. Such that the training must provide with both of the employees and permitted to engage in emergency response activities. A refresher training must be provided annually. Employees responsible for determining the appropriate level of training based on the assigned type of the exemption action with expected of the employees to stay with the emergency agency's standard operating procedure. Employer responsible for providing the required training emphasis that it should be on achieving the required competency with the skill and knowledge for the appropriate level of response rather than the minimal requirements of length of the training. And employers responsible for selecting qualified competent instructors. Employer must provide with the annual refresher training sufficient to maintain the competency. Employee with the most demonstrate the required competency annually. An employer must maintain the record for the demonstrated competency, including in the explanation how each of the competency was demonstrated. The training records must contain the training with the standard roster for the curriculum outlines, demonstrated the checklist performance record for the evaluation tools and scores if appropriate. The change of the competency, the part of the comprehensive of the program to protect the public environment and the chemical incidents resulting in such for the occurrence in transportation accidents, spill, releases, fixed facility operation. Terrorist, the other criminal activity training must be conducted with the personnel provided with the emergency plan, safety response for technical problems. Large number of the personnel need with the training with the related with the hazard material, the terrorist incident response for the volunteer, of the part-time and employee with minimum competency level. Maintaining minimum competency level of the full-time career with the staff may be difficult with the training of the part-time volunteer. Respond with the even larger, bigger challenge to the most significant challenge determining the constitute the minimal level, the ensuring the minimum requirements are meant to the time constraint with the limited flexibility. Part-time volunteer respond to the 2 to 10 training. No signal generically of course can be fit with the need of the elements of the diverse national response outing. There are 3 basic common competency with the training with the adjusting training material to meet the need of the respective response discipline audiences, including police, fire, and emergency medical service, public works, transportation, sanitation employees, so forth, and the training operation must be offered accordingly given these variations of need. OSHA shall define a minimum number of the hours of training operation technician, specialist, incident commander level. However, the key to level of the competency attained with the amount of the hours expended in the training. Each employer is responsible for the employees training with competent agencies often receive the minimum hour of the training delivery test competency with the level of the OSHA and National Fire Protection Association 472 and 473. The amount of the training need with the need of the competency involved and influenced by the pre-existing skill of the experience of the training agency frequently discover the training need with exceed the minimum required hours. On the other hand, employee with the agency response agency who has significant sufficient skill with the experience may require minimal time with the and attain with the competency level of the desired effective response based on the competency with the responding number of the training hours. The minimum employees should evaluate the amount of learning that resulted from the instructor. Refresher training. All personnel who may respond with a hazard material emergency must receive the refresher training with the annual basis. They have the experience to ensure that they maintain competency to perform the roles and safety efficiency insurance. Employers must certify the annual basis of the employees and continue the performance objectives defined in OSHA 1910-120Q. But this may be accomplished through the refresher training demonstrate the skill of the competency. Refresher training competency testing equipment retesting requirements. Verify each of the response level. The general refreshing training should include the critical skills practice, the technical information update, the refinement, incident scene coordination from the field, exercise of the simulation simulating emergencies. Minimum competency should be demonstrated with the role of refresher training for skill directly with effective skills personnel. The minimum hour of the annual refresher training with the response personnel are not specified with the OSHA 1910-120Q. However, the practice with the May jurisdiction with an 8-hour minimum refresher training required with the site workers OSHA 1910-120E. It's guide that each of the competency section response guide unique areas of the emphasis of the refresher training are noted. Recommend instructor qualification. Key effective of the training include the competency with the instructor, proper instructor training, monitoring, and certification by response program manager. 1910-120Q. 7. State of the trainer who is each of the above training subjects shall satisfy with the complete with the training core for the teaching of the subject that are expected to teach and such of the course of the U.S. offered by the U.S. National Fire Academy, or they shall have the training or academic credential for the instructor and experience necessary to demonstrate the competency of the instructor skill, good command of the subject matter of the course that they are teach and implement the OSHA regulations occurred while the instruction with the recommended with the instruction process the following. Job knowledge with the content of the job, with the knowledge with how the information techniques, the principle, the performance in the job, of the understanding of the difficulty problems arrive at the job, the specific training, education, and subject matter of the top of the job experience, the actual work experience directly related subject matter having performed with the job being tough of the experience of the hazard material incident, the training knowledge for the successful completion of the instructor training course, of the cover the principle, the learning method, the sequence of the instruction methods of testing, evaluation, proper preparing, performance object, lesson plan with the training liability with the National Fire Protection Association 1041, oral written communication skills, the personal qualities, patience, understanding, employment of the respect for the students, and flexibility, sensitivity of the cultural diversity among students. Some state the private organization certified by the hazard material instructor, professional organization certified by the National Fire Protection Association, established professional standard with the instructor and NFA, National Fire Protection Association 1041. It can be used to evaluate the instructor of the training certification. Employers training they shall carefully examine the following criteria for the certification hazard material instructor. What's during the having with ladder, potential certified instructor for test of the area of the subject matter expertise. Our candidates required with the demonstration of the skill and knowledge in the classroom setting. Are the follow the evaluation recertification requirements are both instructional technical skills addressed by the certification is hand-on experience hazard material response. Consider to have the instructor perform the test being taught. Page intentionally left blank, and then we move on to hazard material incident response curriculum guidelines awareness level of personnel.